نحن خلقنا الإنسان من I will speak to you of a time when your destiny lies. It was of the ancient days when Nibiru crossed the skies. We of the Etherian beings Anunnaki Elohim, what you must refer to as the elders or the Rizqian. On our planet, Rizq, we had a dwindling atmosphere. In our hunt for gold, we had no warriors and no fears. Rizq was the heart of the center of the tri-solar system, having three suns, Utu, Afsu, and Shamash. We move through the galaxies roaring through the sky, not like planes of this planet Earth that aerodynamically fly. We had an original orbit 25,920 years. We called it an Am. And within our planet's ship, Nibiru, we have crafts called the Shadow. And this gold shield protecting the planet from the ultraviolet rays. From the three suns depleting ozone layer, our planet was in the way. Nibiru journeyed on looking for the gold. Had to first pass Neptune. When there was an appearance of a great bulge. In our original orbit, I knew Uranus was not there. As Nibiru approached, they were not aware.
They're finding carbon.
When you burn something,
yes,
you produce carbon.
Okay.
Carbon is 6 on the element chart, 7 and 8, and you're at oxygen. 1 is hydrogen. The combination of hydrogen and oxygen, called H2O, produces water. So when they reached 6, they had to have had 7 and 8 of the elements. So the element chart existed in a transit state. It was becoming something. And as it became things, and we started getting chlorophyll, these are life forms. They're just not our form of life. But they're living cells, living entities that don't have a nucleus the way we do, the same way the jellyfish is a life form, but its body structure is nothing like yours.
Yeah, in biology they also say that for you to have anything to be classified as organic or living, it has to have carbon.
And the game is carbon-based. Right. And the game there is organic. Because the word organic means organisms. And therefore they're identifying it with our form of life again. Because we are a compound of cells that make up organs. And they cannot go beneath that. You follow? Because they have to start explaining life forms that are beyond their comprehension. So what they do is they start like they do in time, after second, and don't have a first on the clock. They say if we have 60 seconds in a minute instead of we have 60 firsts. They knock off the first because that was our sciences. We overstood those sciences before they damaged our brain and maimed us. You follow? And now those sciences are coming back to us. We're becoming conscious of it because we're probing further than what they're calling life. That's why that word is so tricky. Living lives. They have certain words that are keys in this language for them. Living lives. You follow? Life. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Right in front of you.
Yeah, I want to know, it says that nuclear, it's...
No, you say that, I want to know what you're talking about, because I want to know, I need a reference.
The town that said that Anu created the atom, right?
Right.
So I want to know is, what are they composed of?
Atoms.
They're composed of atoms?
No. I'm trying to find out what they were composed of, Adam.
Anu, the Most High.
Oh, Anu himself? Anu is a person. Y'all have got to give up this food. That's the problem. No, let me stay there a minute. Anu is a person. What has happened again, brother, is they have history and mystery. History is his and mystery is mine. Right? He calls us prehistoric, pre-record, pre-doctrine, until he finds writings on the walls that predate his laws of information. Then he simply calls them primordial, which means prime, the best. But he never investigates. He says, well, we found in a cave in America these creatures that look like UFOs. But he never says, if you watch the woman in her stomach as the fetus progresses, you'll see a baby who's gray with black eyes this big. If you base the size of a fetus of the baby in the womb, when it's about in its 12th week, when it changes from a tadpole with a tail and it cuddles up, you'll see by the size of the cranium in the head and the eyes that you're looking at a grave. Big black eyes. We'll go back to the magazine. They won't address that. They won't address the aquatic part of our nature. They won't address the gray part of our nature. They only want to address the mammal part of our nature, that which is manifested they can scrutinize and analyze. You know what I'm saying? They do not want to address things that they don't have control over because it will show their weaknesses. And we did have these writings in Egypt. And this is why they went down into Luxor and they caused that dam in Aswan to flood so they could justify going into the temple of Seti and destroying it and picking up the walls of Hatshepsut and Abu Simbel and moving them upwards. They had to move them because they knew that that was the sundial at a certain part of the year. Every year, the sun's light would come into a certain temple called the Wasit Temple in Karnak and it would light up a certain wall. And on that wall, they had the graftation, the metamorphosis, the birth of the albino, and how it all took place. They started talking about elements and extraterrestrial. They buried it. We brought in a French group and repainted it and said they touched it up. Picked the temples up and moved them away from the sun. Spent billions of dollars building the Aswan Dam to interfere with the flow of water that was coming in, that was going up the pyramid and turning it into energy. They moved it to bury all these facts. They knew one day our consciousness was going to come back and we'd be intelligent enough to ask these kind of questions. If you went to a college, university, or a seminary, or a cemetery, there's another name for it, and started asking Christian preachers these same questions, they would have no way to go anywhere. They'd be stuck. And they would look at you like, where are you getting this from? Why are you asking this? Go to a science book. And you say, well, I've been to a science book. And they can't explain it. Quartz exists now. Biads exist now. Ziads exist now. Atoms are composed of these things. But just so you don't think I forgot where you want to go, let me go back when I'll come back, okay? Anu is a title. An, meaning the highest being. If this man was the wisest man amongst us, and we were Anunnaki, he would be Anu to us. Or he would be the Re, the Ra. We say Re to us. And then beneath him would be a group of selected, qualified people who he teaches in the event that something happens to him, the wisest amongst them. They became chiefs later. In the United States, they call them the president. You know what I'm saying? Anu represented something. First of all, Nibiru. The crafts, Nibiru. There were thousands of Nibirus, different sized Nibiru. The word Nibiru comes from the word Nabab, which merely means to elevate, to go upwards, and descend downwards. You follow? This one craft that you're talking about, they crashed into this planet, Tawaka, or Tiamat, called Nibiru, was just one cube-shaped craft that went in motion and creates an orb. Sometimes which is symbolized as male and female, by the way, in nature. It crashed here, and y'all are based on that. The commanding officer of that craft was Murda. You understand? But the intellect, the high priest, or the Sam, or the mastermind, the Most High, was called Anu. Anu had two sons who were in conflict with each other. And he knew that this was a very dangerous expedition, so he said, I'm taking the son of the disagreeable one who has become agreeable and make him the commander so he can make proper decisions. Enlil would have been too passive and Enki would have been too aggressive. So he took the reptilian seed because Enki's wife that gave birth to Murdoch and them were reptilians and sent him to a planet where reptilians ruled because Genesis tells you that this planet was covered underwater and it was dark, so he could not send a mammal, he would have drowned. So when the craft came in and the Nibiru stopped outside of the solar system and sent in giants that came in here, they hovered. Then they brought in what they call crystal cities. What they brought them in, and they were like small cities, and they lived there while they started the experiment. And then they went on to Mars and the moon. This is now years ago when I said that, people said crazy. Now that they found life on Mars, now they found that there's life on stations on the dark side of the moon, it ain't funny no more. There's a great possibility that what I'm saying might be truer than what the hell they're saying. They gotta make me crazy because none of this is in the Bible.
There's some profound connection between Earth and Mars, and it comes to Earth at a place called Giza, on the Giza Plateau.
Could the planet Mars enlighten us about a myth of a lost civilization? Recent exploration suggests it may be so.
All the talk tonight is about Mars and whether American scientists have the proof that life once existed on that planet.
A huge, stunning breakthrough was made. We went to Mars, we took pictures, and we found structures.
Amazingly, structures in the shapes of pyramids.
The pyramids on Mars are overwhelming evidence of intelligent design.
Not only that, on Mars, as in Egypt, there appears to be a sphinx-like face, maintaining a watchful eye on these massive Martian monuments.
The Sphinx on Earth is a composite, the body of a lion, a feline, with the head of a man. The face on Mars appears to be a composite. It appears to have a left and a right half, where the right half is a hominid, anthropoid, simian. The left half, looked down from orbit, appears to be feline, lion-like, cat-like. So what we see in the face on Mars is a fusion, just like the Sphinx on Earth, of two living forms, hominid and feline.
Skeptics say it's a natural rock formation. The image we see, just a simple trick of light and shadow. Hoagland counters.
We're seeing all kinds of evidence of reflections, of brilliant reflections, like polished metal surfaces with the sun glinting off. This is not natural geology.
Unexplained hieroglyphics add to the theory. South of Cairo in remote Abydos is the Temple of Seti I. Is it possible that there is evidence here of advanced technology the ancient Egyptians could not have possessed? Evidence never before revealed to the public.
There is this extraordinary panel. And on this panel, there are odd, weird, bizarre, high-tech things that look like helicopters and land speeders and spaceships and the Millennium Falcon. Nobody has said, what is a helicopter doing in the ancient sands of Egypt?
In fact, the curious image looks exactly like the Apache helicopter introduced to the U.S. military only 10 years ago.
Why do we have these connections between Earth and Mars? If we don't answer that question, we will have failed completely as a species.
Why would the Martians leave home and relocate on Earth? Hoagland suspects Mars had its own Armageddon, a meteorite collision some 12,000 years ago.
Something shatteringly horrible happened to Mars and killed it. If that alive Mars contained intelligent life forms, they would have had to leave. We think they came here. But you and me, and everyone watching this tonight, we are the Martians.
As the Earth hurtles closer to the new millennium, amidst dire prophecies, perhaps there is an even more pressing reason to find out about our link to Mars.
Whoever came before, as they realized that they were approaching a catastrophe, left time capsules, records, hoping that the next civilization would find them, would figure out what did they do wrong. How can we, before it happens again, figure out what they were facing and do it right?
Could the Martian pyramids contain these records? And is it possible there's advanced knowledge that might ensure the survival of the human race? Perhaps in the 21st century, man will land on Mars only to confront his own history.
We can rule again. We can be masters of our fate, masters of our destiny. The key is in knowing who you are. And we need to go home.
And the only way they can keep me and you passive is by keeping us believing that some God called Jesus is going to come get us one day. And this keeps me and you from turning around and kicking him all the stuff he did to us. So you got to keep me and you in that state of mind where we're always going, okay, Lord Jesus, Jesus going to come. He's going to come. Every Christmas is coming. He ain't got here yet. From 2,000 years. And that's a bit. Now he's getting to the point where you're starting to say, we done had 2,000 Easters and I ain't seen no Jesus yet. You better come up with some Jesus real quick. So he'll be fabricating Jesuses any day now. You understand? So he creates scenarios like David Koresh and beat him up and have regenerate your belief in Jesus, or to have a bunch of Tamils come on television and say, I had this thing I was doing, Jesus touched my life, and you start really believing it. So these are rechargements because you become too conscious. You're wise enough to ask questions that they cannot deal with. Yaanuwn is a man. You follow? I saw him myself in flesh. What you're caught up with is time lapse. And here's what I get caught up on with time lapse and people who were born in this country and were once Christians. They don't have any problem with the part of the Bible. It says that Elijah came to Jesus and met him on a mountain. And Jesus did a transfiguration. They say, now this man Elijah and this man Moses was dead for thousands of years. Right in their Bible it says that they came back and met Jesus and talked to Jesus. Less than 2,000 years ago. You hear me? And the disciples watched it. And then when they finished, Jesus was all full of light, transfiguration. Then they took off and went out. How old was Moses when he was standing in front of Jesus? How old? He would have had to be at least 4,000 years old. And Elijah, who went up on a golden chariot, almost 8,000 years old. But Jesus saw them as they were. Why? Because there's a such thing as time leaping. Time regenerating. See, they're reanimating tissues again. That means they've mastered time and age and death. They admitted that death is an illness that there's a cure for. They already admitted that people die of a cardiac arrest and they can cure it. Because now they have, if you take an aspirin a day, you prolong your life. It's a known fact. If you take a bare aspirin every night, right, you won't have to worry about a heart attack, even if it's in your family. That's simple. How did it come out? What's an aspirin? Mold. What's mold? The original source of life. All they did is went back to the original source of life. All that cutting up in the children didn't mean a thing. Take an aspirin, which is from mold, which is a self-grown life form, which is what I told y'all a couple of weeks ago. I said, if you want to create life, all you got to do is take a bag and stick a piece of bread in it that's been dead, all life out of it, you can burn it, stick it in there, and put some water in it, and twist it, and leave it there for a couple of weeks, and mold will grow. Therefore, you created life where there was no life. That's what happened on this planet. The right conditions between hydrogen and carbon and oxygen, the right conditions within the 99 elements. And sunlight, and the sunlight produced the life on this planet, which started an evolution in the water. But when the beings came here, they had to go beneath the water. And that's why I was explaining to you all about Genesis. When you listen to the story of Genesis, whoever's talking is talking from beneath the water. Because it says the Spirit of God moved upon the surface of the water. If the planet was void in darkness, and there was nothing no one could see, and everything was deep water, then whoever was recording this had to be under the water looking up at the craft of God, hovering over. mining, recording, and being underwater, they had to be either in a marine craft, some type of craft that can go underwater and create a sphere for living, or they were reptilians. And then the Bible, Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, calls him Nachash and says he's a serpent. Speaks about a reptilian man. And they call him Leviathan, the serpent. And serpents or reptilians are aquatic and live under water. Then you go back to all the other cultures in the world. This is what I'm talking about where Jesus and them being recorded. If you go back to Samaria, you found Dagon. You go back to find Onan amongst the Native Americans. Who is it? The fish man. We have mermaids and mermaids that they've got the bodies of, but they tell you it's a myth. There are people on the planet now that still grow scales. They got a name for the disease. There are people that grow full webs. They have a name for the disease. There are people that are born underwater and can breathe. They got a name for it. It becomes a dis-ease or disease rather than a confession. That man is linked to reptilians. That man is breathing water. That man once had gills. That man lived inside of a sac, which is actually an egg called what they call it? The pouch in the woman's embryonic fluid. They lived in an egg in there. You lived in an egg like a snake in your mother. Now, when that eggshell broke, called a water sac, you came out, and that's when your body transformed like a metamorphosis of a caterpillar to a butterfly to become what you are now. But still, today, you're breathing water. And if you don't have water in your environment, you dehydrate and you die. You follow? So you're not the kind of lizard that can live in the desert. You're the kind of lizard that has to be near water. You dig what I'm saying? You may not like it. And your descendants were a composite of Enlil and Enki, and they have the same thing in Egyptology. Ra comes out of the primordial egg, out of the water, out of the chaotic waters, right? So now if you go back to Egypt and you want to be an Egyptian, you're going to be admitting that you have something to do with beings that were called fishmen.
1999 Dead Festival. Come join us for the most memorable experience of your life at Tamaray, Egypt of the West. Enjoy 9 fun-filled days from June 24th until July 4th. Bring the whole family and see why they don't want you to visit this beautiful recreational village park, where everywhere you look, there's a smile. Here at Tamaray, Egypt of the West, you'll find a variety of refreshments, including ice cream, cool drinks, cotton candy, burgers, and fries. Or bring your own picnic basket. Feel free to walk the spiritual labyrinth and see reenactments of ancient Egyptian ceremonies in a drug, alcohol-free, and safe environment for the whole family. There'll be fireworks, music, live entertainment, and parades in a carnival atmosphere with plenty of free parking. If you can't make the festival in June, come on out anytime for a tour. Located right off of Highway 142 in Putnam County at 404 Shadydale Road, Eatonton, Georgia. For more information and free brochure, call 706-484-0098.
If you go back to Samaria, you're going to have to admit that you're going to go back to, if you go back to Nubia, if you go back to the Yoruba, Ogun, you're going to be back, if you go back to Voodoo, you have sea gods. That you had a relationship with beings that came out of the sea that gave you these webs between your fingers. And like I said many times, if it wasn't for a simple word called grooming, and you saw what you really look like without shaving, washing, and cutting nails and all the stuff, you'd be a grossed out creature that would scare every person. You never cut your toenails or nails or washed up with deodorant or never shaved. Think of what you look like. Never combed your hair, never brushed your teeth. You follow that? And every day when you get up, in order for you to rejuvenate yourself, you dive in the water. They call the source of your reproduction semen. Semen. You can say, that's not the same word, Doc. Yes, it is. It's just that when the Caucasian plays the phonetic game with you, it's all right. It's all right for them to say UFO. The hell is UFO? Say UFO. Oh, they see, instead of them saying UFO, because UFO is a confession that I really don't know what I'm looking at, and it makes me look stupid. What they do is turn it to a noun and say UFO. Never knew organization. None of them want to be UFO researchers now. Now they're UFO researchers. Now that's a phonetic alteration. It's cool when he does it. It's cool when the Freemasons take three words from, or 3 parts of a word out of the Bible and put them together and say Jebelun. Goma, Uz, and Daba, wisdom, strength, and beauty, and say it means God, then it's okay. But when I do it, you say, see how you like to play with words? When I say manifestation, or man is the most infestation the planet's ever had, that's not just a perverted word, that's also a damn reality. Man is infesting the planet, ripping up the soil, poisoning the water, eating animals, and now poisoning and giving himself deadly diseases. Manifestation. Those are realities. You might not like the way they sound, but they're realities. If you don't want to believe what I'm saying, and please don't, just go investigate it. Why? Why won't you? Because you're too lazy or you're too afraid to find the truth. You don't want to go and find out that your whole Christianity was bullshit. There's a 2,000-year spell. Now we walk around saying, why we ain't got nothing? Because nobody else who has anything had Christianity. Say, well, the Chinese are doing good, they were Buddhists. The Japanese, they were Buddhists. And the gods that they worship look like them. Say, well, some Christians make it, yeah. White Christians make it, because the God they're looking at. And as long as you got a God that looks like other than you cannot instill dignity, pride, and honor, and nobility, and greatness in yourself or your kind. And we will never get nowhere. We'll always be saying, how come we don't got nothing? Yes, man, you got it again. Oh, he got it. Go, you can finish. Go ahead.
I just want to know is Silent Arena.
Say that again.
Silent. Am I pronouncing right? Silent Arena.
Sol and arena. So yeah, for the word solar comes from.
Is that Asaru and Tiamat together?
No. That's, so you're dealing with different explosions. That's why in the book I said not the Big Bang, a Big Bang. There's a concession of Big Bangs when it collapses. See, first it explodes out, then it collapses. And then as it explodes again, pieces break off, and each one of these things collapse and explode. So you have triads of deities which were named. They were ruled. Sol and Arena ruled that's why I said there was Om was a planet, a part of a planet that was inhabitable. It wasn't a sun at the time. It was a planet, just like this planet. When it catches on fire, and as it begins to consume itself, what will it become? A sun. You follow? And then they'll say the planet Earth, where Earthlings once lived. But I'm saying, but when they see it, they'll see a massive ball until it burns out. Well, the time it takes to burn out is making this big decision. Because when you look up at our sun, we're looking at it as being around for a long time. But when you base it on the fact that there are other suns 1,000 times bigger than it, this is a very short time y'all got to be here. And it is burning out. And it will eventually be gone. They say in 1,000,000 years, so that don't mean much to you as an individual. But if the world did exist for 1,000,000 years, people would wait at that 1,000,000th year, the sun goes boom, they'd be like, oh. And that happened before. That's why the Bible keeps saying replenish, replenish. That's why they want a selected few. They don't want everybody to say 144,000 is not a lot of people. No, they're not. But if you look around this room, there's a bunch of different genes in this room. They are selecting a certain amount of people to take out of here, to take to crafts. The rest of the people here are going to catch hell unless they've learned to transform themselves. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, they can forget. Unless they become spirit beings where they can re-inherit bodies, they can forget it because physical is going to be gone. You follow that? And those other beings are going to come back once this planet has been replenished, and they're going to reseed the earth. This is a reoccurring event. And it's done because man is becoming more and more God. Until man is worthy to go back, until you're worthy to go back to Cyrus and eventually Risk. Because the first stop out of Risk was Siptu. And that was still in the 19th galaxy, which is Sirius star and connects into this one called Sahu or Sept. Sahu is Orion, sorry. Called Sept in Egyptian. It was still twisted in this one. And then they left there